Admiral's Log. For the first time in many years, the Chinese Empire finds itself in a period of peace. Our ships, weathered by countless battles, are now returning to port for much-needed repairs, refits and repainting. The docks buzz with activity, a testament to our dedication to maintaining our naval strength even in times of respite. However, as the ancient adage wisely advises, when at peace, prepare for war. This brief lull in hostilities provides us with the perfect opportunity to ready ourselves for the challenges that lie ahead. With a keen eye on the horizon, I'm planning one final, decisive campaign, an assault on mainland Italy. By securing territory within Italy itself, we aim to establish an unassailable presence in the heart of Europe. This bold move will not only solidify our strategic foothold, but also serve as a powerful deterrent to any ambitions the German Empire might harbor. Our message will be clear. China is a dominant power, and any interference will be met with overwhelming force. As our fleet undergoes its transformation, we're also refining our strategies and preparing our troops for the forthcoming campaign. Every detail is meticulously planned, every resource carefully allocated. The Italian mainland represents the final piece of our grand strategy, the keystone that will secure our influence and ensure a lasting peace through strength. Hey guys, Stealth here and welcome to episode 45. The situation right now is calm. It is June 1954, and we are approaching pretty much the end stages of the campaign. I might have one, maybe two more wars, and that'll probably be it. Now, in order to prepare for those wars, I am building 6 new battleships. I have an active fleet of 10 battleships, and we are still, I believe, refitting 1 or 2 to make sure that those guys are going to be up to modern standards. Here's the Prebzade getting refit to a 1951 version of the Zheigong. I'm building 5 of these Lord of Change ships with their 20-inch guns. Overkill? Yeah, most likely. Still, should be funny to use. As for the rest of the ships, most of them are set to limited to save on some funding, but the rest of it, well, it's just kind of sea controlling here and there because I have done a lot of smaller invasions. Like over here on some of these islands, Annam was up for grabs, so I got that. A little, what was it? I think it was Dahomey down here. So Porto Novo is now part of my area as well. The way that Germany is still making strides into the middle of Africa is something I don't really like, but my reputation with the Germans is pretty good. My reputation with the Italians, not as much. The Italians are already in possession of 28 battleships. It's a lot of firepower. But if you look at their naval tonnage, we're not even that far removed. We are, well, we might have a bigger fleet, but they got more firepower, most likely. And I'm not really counting the 20-inchers as being able to offset that. They are, however, building 37 new ships. I don't know what type. I don't know how much of a threat they're going to be, if they're DDs with 4-inch guns or battleships with 20-inch guns. Don't know. Can't tell you. As for my fleet, some of you have already been commenting on quite a few videos. You need destroyers. At the moment, I have no destroyers whatsoever, because at least, let's say the earlier stages, I don't find that DDs really do well. They tend not to hold their own. They tend to go down with basically a sneeze. It's very difficult to make them sustainable, survivable. That's why I tend not to use them. But you can scatter them around everywhere. And especially in engagements where you might just need a couple of torpedoes to sway the battle in your favor, it can be helpful to have them. So, here's for all of you guys who've been saying you need DDs. Here we go. I have access to the Hybrid Destroyer, or the Advanced Destroyer Large. I am just going to go with the biggest one. Probably by displacement standards, these are more likely going to be light cruisers. My light cruisers currently are 10,900. These DDs can be really sizable. Almost 6,000 tons. The oldest heavy cruiser I have, at least that I still have the design for, is 9,000 tons. And the battleships used to be 17. So just compare that to the ship sizes that we used to have. Speed, these things are rated for 36 knots. Most of the enemy DDs are also doing 36 knots, so let's make sure that mine can do that. As for propulsion, turboelectric is nice, but it takes up quite a bit of weight, and of course they're not cheap to run. This is slightly better in both regards. You're using less for displacement, and you're paying less. Let's give them better oil, let's give them an auxiliary engine, a better propeller shaft, because these things live and die by their mobility, and of course modern armor. Depth charges thankfully are not required, because submarines, at least in this mod, have been disabled. So, tower time. Ah yes, it's one of them towers. The complex Modern Tower 2 does not fit aboard the boat, which is a little annoying because you might need to then, I don't know, up the beam by a couple %. But by doing that, you're also going to require additional engine power to offset that. Nevertheless, this should be fine. Unfortunately, I can only put it there, which I don't really like, because I would like to have more guns on the bow to give this thing better chasing capabilities. Thankfully, the secondary tower is small, doesn't take up a whole lot of space, nor weight, and that's especially important. The funnel, well, we cannot say the same for the funnel. The funnel is quite heavy at 335 tons, and I believe that with an engine efficiency of 157, I should be able to do quite some decent acceleration with this ship. Then, how many guns can we put on this ship? How much torpedo armament do I want on this ship? Probably a bit of both. I want to have... yeah, if there's going to be DDs involved in the fight, it is likely that they'll be part of a larger fleet action. So to that effect, make sure I don't have interference as much from other ships, nor from my own guns. Give them sonar. Radio, not strictly required. Comms range, communication bonuses, you don't really need those. So I'm going to forego installing a radio. Then, guns. I have 5-inchers. These are the 5-inch Mark V. I've had them for a while. I just don't really use them on DDs much. Because I think back in the day when I was building the previous class of destroyer, well, they weren't around. At least not that era of gun. Not that quality. The pitch and roll on these DDs, I think, is always quite terrible. You can compensate a little bit, but overall, it is a bit tricky to keep those things balanced. Now, if you look at how much engine power I need in order to get this thing going, we haven't even talked about barbettes yet, or any of the armor. This ship feels enormous for what it does, because now it's armed with 6 5-inch guns and 1 set of 18-inch torpedoes. But I'm paying $500 million for it, and that's without all the gear that I want. So we're going to have to go a little cheaper. Reduce the range a bit. It's not that important. I do want to have these guys with 24-inch torpedoes and ideally oxygen run, so that they don't have to get close to the fight. Now at 23 kilometers, you're not strictly likely to hit a whole lot of stuff, because by the time that your torpedo finally gets there, I mean, they're not that fast. These things are running at 50, well, they're relatively fast. They're running at 53 knots. By the time that your torpedo actually gets there, which is about half an hour, a little less, you might already have a completely different situation on your hands. So it's entirely likely that your target is no longer exactly where you expect it to be. But that's something we just have to kind of take for granted. As for shell type, I'm thinking high explosive incendiary. This way I can hose down battleships, and as I have been on the receiving end of these treatments, well, let's just say I didn't really enjoy it that much. Those high explosive hits on battleships have cost me some ships. Really did not like that. Oh, good lord. See, this is the problem with these ships. They're too heavy. This thing is 500 tons overweight. And I'm not so sure what else to do with it. Because if I make it slower than 30 knots, it will not really be able to jockey for position with the battleship that well. And that means I cannot put these torpedoes in a good position. So maybe I need to go and approach this different and go with a slightly different destroyer. Let's say something in the compact versions. You're going to get access to different towers, which might actually suit me better. Give him standard crew quarters. Make him do 35 knots, ideally. And then install gas turbines. There we go. We got 1,100 tons. Once you start installing all the gadgets and gizmos, that does tend to change fairly quickly. But for now, I think we can make something work here. Give him oil. There we go. Alright, install a funnel aboard the ship. Give me a torpedo launcher. And we're going to put the torpedo launcher very traditionally amidships. It's going to be an anti-flood system. Yes, please. A 24-inch oxygen-fueled torpedo. Yeah, now we're actually doing quite well. These things are going to only, at least for now, cost me 170 million. And I can probably crank them out once, yeah, 7 months. Probably going to be a little bit more than that, because I don't have everything installed yet. But I think it's a decent time. Oh, we are rapidly approaching the limitations of this ship. With this tower, I think I might skimp out on the funnel. Go to one of the smaller ones, because I still get 200% efficiency. And this one is 60 tons heavier. So, set some barbette. Armor is pretty decent. I want to make sure that these things can take a hit. I don't really like the firepower on the ship. That's a bit of a concern. If I go to 4-inchers, they would be more useful in dealing with their smaller companions. But at the same time, the 5-incher is more versatile when it comes to dealing with bigger ships. So there is something to be said for either case. It really comes down to what am I most likely going to be facing with this particular destroyer. And I would like it to be a bit of a jack of all trades. But I suppose to bolster their firepower against smaller ships, I can have a couple of, let's say, 2-inchers installed. And with that, be able to immediately hose down destroyers, should they be foolish enough to come close to me. Yeah, that has a good turning circle. We got some turrets over there. Can we put some more? We can put another couple turrets there, but now we're a little over. Not as much as I was fearing, but still. This ship will not set sail in her current condition. 14 tons. Reduce the deck armor, increase the foredeck armor just a touch. Ooh, that's rather important. Reduce the range again. 7 tons. Can I increase the displacement? Yeah, there we go. That fixes it. 200 million, builds in 7 months. I can crank these out very, very quickly. Survivability on these things, life expectancy. I don't think you really want to serve aboard one of these. Because their life expectancy probably isn't that good. But, well, with torpedoes, with guns, at least they can add something to the fight. Now, if possible, I would like to add another turret. And of course, ideally, I'd put that on a barbette, but that's going to be a bit challenging. I don't think I can do that. Stick to 34 knots, remove that, and put this just there where it can turn freely. This thing cannot quite turn freely. This thing can turn freely. And with these longer barrels, I am capable of hitting stuff out quite far. 15.5 kilometers with high explosive should be sufficient to at least make some battleships a little annoyed with me. But then again, I think they'll be prioritized pretty quickly by the torpedo launchers anyways. Did I forget anything? I don't think I did. Can I make them slightly faster? Can I make them even faster? No, that's the magic barrier. 35.5. 35.5 is acceptable. Slightly more armor then. I'm not so sure if this thing even has much of a foredeck or an aft deck. There we go. Slight aft offset. Yeah, it's fine. There. Now, pitch and roll, they're not as bad as I was expecting. So with that, I can probably save this design and start cranking these things out. I'm thinking by the dozens, because I simply have that capacity. I can crank these out very, very quickly. I can bring a lot of them, and that should immediately start also balancing out the amount of army logistics that I have, provided that this really makes a difference. That's something I'm not quite sure about. As far as I know, the Army Logistics stat is not really properly explained. Like, it says, the Army Logistics factor, blah, blah, blah. If the transport capacity and the Navy's power are reduced, the word reduced doesn't really have any kind of term explaining it. Like, reduced compared to the enemy? Reduced compared to the amount of territories? Reduced to what? The army will become dysfunctional, will not be effective. Army logistics are dependent on the number of controlled provinces and their population. Yeah, I get that. You got more territories to cover, you're probably going to need a bigger navy. But it then doesn't say how much tonnage you need as, for example, a guideline. It doesn't tell you that, okay, if you got X amount of provinces, you need Y amount of naval tonnage. A nation which is overextended, possessing many colonies and conquered territories, will need a considerably large navy to keep army logistics at a high level. But a considerably large navy. Again, it's a vague term. Do you mean that I need a lot of tonnage in my fleet? Or do I need hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ships? Because the one thing is fairly easily fixed by building a couple of high tonnage battleships. But of course, let's say a 100,000 ton battleship can only be in one place at a time. If I build 30 destroyers worth 3,000 tons each, I can achieve pretty much the same thing. Rather do 100,000 tons, but I can be in 30 different places at the same, well, not at the same time, but with all these DDs. So I really hope that that's something that's going to get eventually explained. For now, I can build about 80,000 tons worth of these DDs. So these Lanjaus, they're going to be everywhere. They are about 3,400 tons. Slightly over. Should have had one or two less than that. This does need to get rectified very quickly because it's also cutting into the production time of some of these other ships. And that is unacceptable. So we'll have to suspend one and suspend another one. And that immediately saves off a couple of months there and shaves off some months there. So we can expect the first of these Lord of Change class battleships in 12 months. Now I have decided that I want one particular research project complete, so I have the tech budget set to 100%. I want to get better turret mechanisms, because I still don't have Autoloader 2. And that's something that is supposedly hiding in the turret mechanisms. So I really want to get that in order to get those 20-inch guns from those really big ships firing even faster. As for the research, well, the monthly expenditure is quite high. I'm still bleeding about 800 million a month, but I have 30 billion in store. I can probably bleed for a little bit of time. And I do still get quite a lot of requests from different nations going, hey, can you build me more ships? Why, yes, I can. They even wanted... What did they want again? One of the... No, you're not going to get a showboat. See, these requests keep coming in. They wanted... what's the class I just mentioned? Yeah, a Lord of Chains. I was going to get 11 billion in profit. I said no thank you, because I want to get those things built for myself, not for the other nations. Anyway, relations with Italy are decaying. I might have had a hand in that. I don't really want to improve relations with them. I do want to improve relations with Germany, so that I don't have to fight the Germans and the Italians at the same time. What I find interesting is that both Germany and Italy have decaying GDPs, whereas mine is growing. I'm not sure if it's always 10.21, but I do recall having a 10% growth very, very, very steadily. And this is a bit weird. It's like China has that locked in. So, yeah, I mean, I don't mind. As for the other nations, Russia is declining very quickly. We have Austria-Hungary declining quickly. The US is just about even. But Spain seems to be falling apart. And they don't have that much of a GDP to work with anyway. And then building another 11 ships, while already having negative naval funding, probably isn't going to survive for the country very long. As for the once mighty British Empire, not a whole lot left of them. 2 battle cruisers, 4 lights, and 4 DDs. And again, they only have 3 provinces that they need to defend. And I think that their worst concern is not the Navy. Their worst concern is the German army deciding that they want to take a stroll into northwestern England, taking over the area and completely eradicating the entire, the remainder of the British Empire. So I'm going to start poking the Italians a bit more, and I want to try and take one of the main provinces of the Italians. After a little bit of poking Italy and maybe provoking them by parking a couple 100,000 tons of battleship off their shores, they've sent us an ultimatum. And of course, this is an absolute disgrace and we shall never accept this. So if they want war, on their heads be it. You guys did mention you want destroyers. I now have 45 destroyers and more are on the way. Now, when it comes to building new battleships, it's July 1955. I think newer battleships are going to be largely late to the party. I might still need some replacements, but I'm perfectly happy just cranking out these DDs like crazy. I'm ordering them in batches of 15, give or take. And my shipyards are happily chunking away at building 79 new ships. So, yeah, I think we shall be okay with the construction of the DD fleet. This does seem to have shifted my army logistics somewhat. I'm still not very high at 38%, but hey, it's better than the 12% I had at some point. So now the real question comes, where are we going to meet the Italians? It might be here, where I have the Prepshad, the foreign policy, and a couple cruisers, and the Italians have 2 battleships. It could be over here, because they got a DD and another heavy cruiser. I have 7 battleships, I have 2 battleships. Not too sure what to invade yet. Italy has so many delightfully tasty areas that I can invade, and for example Palermo, well, it's a 365,000 ton port. We might have to motivate it to change its size and dimensions somewhat, but once we've done that, I suspect I can actually get invading. But why set your sights so low when you can just take central Italy? I mean, not just. It's a 1.1 million ton port, another 426,000 tons. But a couple of port strikes, and central Italy might not have as much of a port anymore. Now, with all these ships taking to sea, my budget has taken a hit, so I have put the tech budget down already, but I'm still minus 254 million. This is going to get probably a little worse. But I might have to start building for other nations, at least some of those crappy DDs of mine that don't buy this, in the hopes that it doesn't come actually back to bite me, which it very well might. We have the first of these super battleships almost ready. This thing is getting commissioned, so I cannot put her out to sea just yet. As for the DDs, I don't know, they're probably everywhere at this point. I have spent absolutely no attention to where exactly they are going. So the AI then tends to just plunk them down wherever you have a port. That's exactly the point. I want to have these things, well, all over the place, so they can have at least a little bit of naval presence everywhere, and thereby automatically defend my interests in any kind of an area. Oh, we're doing an invasion. Huh, cute. 500,000 men? And you're still fighting 21... How are you not winning? Instantly. Oh, well. Now, let's see what the Italians do. July to August 1955. The Italians, oh, here we go. They're invading from southern France to western France yet again. This is distinctly unfun, but it's not something I can really handle without completely decimating the ports of Marseille, Toulon, and Nice. It's not an easy feat, trying to take down all of those massive ports. Not impossible. It's something that might take some time. In this campaign, time is becoming a bit of a scarce resource. Apparently, the Italians are good friends with the Spanish because Spain is now threatening that they will declare war on us if we do not show signs of reducing the tension against their country. Look, Spain, if you do not reduce the tension with China, Spain will cease to exist. It's your choice exactly as to how we're going to approach this, but apparently this means war. This means war. Fine. If my fleet wasn't busy, I would immediately start wiping out the Spanish Empire, because I don't really like to see them operate like this with impunity and completely offending my enormous navy. The Spanish Navy has 1 whole battleship, 2 heavies, 1 light, and 4 DDs. Shame if something happened to them. As for invading Spain, southern Spain is very, very poor. You're looking at 988 million, which is tiny. Northern Algeria is bringing in more. The port of Barcelona, the port of Valencia, they're pretty sizable. And considering that Spain is not that big of a threat, I'm not going to focus a whole lot of attention here. As for this invasion, yeah, I think it's not going to go that well. Not yet, anyway. So, let's start poking the Italians. Oh, here's their battleship fleet. Yeah, they're pushing all their BBs out to sea. Fine. We're going to coordinate and condense the fleet into ideally one big maneuver. And start pushing these guys. As for the port of Palermo, I think we might have to take it a little slower. I would love to invade central Italy, to be sure, but it's something I don't think I can get away with just yet. As for the ports here, yeah, that's enormous. Ancona's 427. This is 1.5 million and 1.2 million. So northwest Italy is completely impervious. As for these ports here, 500, 360, 400. Yeah, it's a bit much. So I think Palermo, or the port over there of Catania, which doesn't even let me select it. Yeah, we can't touch that. Okay, Western Sicily it is. At least force the Italians to make a stand there. I don't think I have enough tonnage, but that's not really the point. I'm going to start bombarding the port, and with the port destruction, the invasion of Western Sicily should become significantly easier. As for the Italian clash, I really hope it's coming, because I want to see the new ships work together. I want to see the firepower that I now have. And I also need to start reducing my monthly spending substantially, because in about 4.5 months, maybe 5 and a change, I'm going to be broke. This is what happens when the Chinese get provoked by the Spanish. The Spanish immediately suffer from economic stagnation. I wasn't aware it was going to get much worse. Italy's accusing our country of war crimes already. Gentlemen, we haven't done anything yet. Ah, this is not the fight I was looking for, but here we are. We have one really sizable battleship, but they're the same size as all of these Italian boats. They got 18-inch guns, the lot of them. This is not what I want. Withdraw. Success. Excellent. So that's one fight out of the way. They want to order a Chengdu. No, sorry, I can't do that. Yeah, we're invading Western Sicily. Yes, we're also invading Chad. Whatever, it's not a priority right now. What is going on here? Yeah. We need a lot more tonnage, and I don't really have a whole lot available. Although at this point, I think one of those new ships should... They're still not available? Ah, the beer guy. You should be available. With that, I can bolster this fleet. And yes, I'll also take the DDs with me, which pushes me over the 300,000 ton marker, but not by much. So I'm hoping for port strikes. As for this convoy... Oh boy. 2 of my new DDs, the Lanzhows, versus 1 light cruiser with 18 6-inch guns. Yeah, that's not exactly the fight that I'm looking for with my my tin cans. I don't think they'll survive that, because 18 6-inch guns sounds like the perfect counter to a couple of relatively okay destroyers. But, you know, that level of firepower is not something I can match with just 2 DDs. What I can, however, do is play catch-up. So what I'm going to try and do is go for the convoy ships and ignore the light cruiser, if at all possible. So to that end, we're going to detach these destroyers. One's going to go to the port, one's going to go to the starboard, and the CL is going to have to pick and choose wisely what exactly it wants to engage. Now these convoy ships have a tendency to move away. The CL's behind them? Okay, that's an opportunity. Because I might be able to just snipe a couple of these guys with my long-range high explosive. I can send torps, but I think it's a bit of a waste against a couple of transports. Like, it's not that useful. I'd much rather save the torpedoes for dealing with the CL. That is, if the CL wants to fight. Which it doesn't. Brave Sir Robin destroyer. Sorry, Brave Sir Robin against the destroyer. Like, this is... This is what you're supposed to shoot, light cruiser. This is your target, right? But no. The CL says, oh shit, none of that stuff. I'm out. Oh, look at that. You don't want to come up against one of those things when you're in a DD. No thank you. In the meanwhile, my DDs are doing 11,000 damage. Murdering transports with absolute impunity. Yeah. This is not exactly what I needed the DDs for, but hey, if I can spend like 450 million in order to get a couple of these DDs and murder some transports to the already severely decaying Spanish economy, why not? Why not? Now these guys sometimes have the capabilities to shoot back, and these guys do in fact have that. They got 3 4.6-inch guns. Mark 5, no less. But I don't think a transport actually gets a direction or yeah. Like they get an autoloader alright, but they get no rangefinder. So I'm not sure how accurate those guns are actually going to be. Seems like a moot point anyway, because there's not a whole lot of them left. There's the Catalan. San Antonio, dead. And the Carmen, dead. Job done. See ya. Sniped a couple of transports right under the nose of that light cruiser. Favorita. Well, you're not a Favorita anymore, are you? Idiot cruiser. So that was a fun little dance with the Spanish. Please, by all means, try again. Their economy was already in decay, and I'm also blocking it. They're now looking at a minus 12%, and their GDP is probably going to crash. So, well, I suspect I don't even have to try and push into them, because very soon there probably won't be any Spanish Empire. They get a negative naval funding of 4.7 billion. I can't keep that up for long. 1 month later, and the Isabel Francisca wants to have another go. I am not touching that. Fight the battles you can win, not the ones that are most likely going to get you killed. So let's not do that. As for the battle over here, I actually have a whole 11% chance to win. Surprisingly, I'm not getting port strikes yet. That kind of annoys me. As for the Italian battleships, they've scattered somewhat. I do have a patrol-ish group over here in the Red Sea, a couple cruisers, but they haven't seen the Spanish ships either. Oh, sorry, the Italian ships. So where are they? Got a heavy cruiser there. They got a heavy cruiser there. They're not back home, are they? No. They got a BC over there. This invasion's going absolutely nowhere. That's good. So where are the battleships? Look, if you're not coming to fight me, I will take your territory. If we're not doing one thing, if we're not doing this little party of ours, we're going to take all of your islands. We're going to take Sicily. As for this convoy here, what's that? Another Spanish ship? Okay. I have a Hexi, or the Hexi, a 1949 Mechanic. And they're fighting me with... Oh, it's one of those guys. It's a 4-barrel, 10.4-inch gun cruiser. I can probably take that out between snacks. The plan this time, Hexi engages the heavy cruiser, and the Hangzhou goes to the transport. That's the way that this is going to play out. These guys are possibly going to damage my ships. These 10-inch guns are no joke. They are the 5th grade, so they're going to be most likely accurate with a good rate of fire. Their torpedo launchers are not positioned great, but especially those on the stern do have a very nice angle to launch. So those could be a bit of a problem. No, we're going to prio this. Yeah, I need you to cut across. I can send torps against the heavy cruiser here, but I rather doubt it's going to be there by the time the torps get there. That is always my problem with these very, very long-range torps. With the research that I've been doing, they do incredible amounts of damage. If they get through armor, that is. I mean, anti-torpedo blisters are going to mitigate a lot of that damage. But 46,000 points of damage is no joke. I'm going to start turning the Hexi away, because I'm kind of scared about the torpedo capabilities of this guy. Yeah, he's thinking about it. This might cause me some damage. Let's throw the torps from the Hexy out there. These torps are 36 knots. They're electrics. They're actually much slower, but they're also more difficult to detect. I just need that heavy cruiser of theirs to maintain course. But as I'm moving away from their ship, they might try and follow me in, completely mitigating any kind of damage that my torpedoes will do. Yeah, unless they turn to starboard hard, this is going to be a complete miss. Unfortunate. So you did torp me, but probably a while ago. If those torps are only getting here now, then they've taken their sweet time getting here. Okay, DD. We can take out the transport later. For now, I might need your torpedo launcher, because these are fast. And I'm surprised that the oxygens run so much faster than the electrics. We're not getting through. High explosive then. Let them ricochet off of our angled armor. Their torpedo launchers are 20-inch, 33 knots, and the ship's doing 29, so it's not that big of a difference. Commence your torpedo attack, Hangzhou. Engage the other target. Torpedo launcher turning over to port side. Turning, turning, turning. Turrets coming around. Turning, turning, turning. Come on, boy. Any day of the week now. Instantly launch it. There you go. It's going to be extremely difficult for this cruiser to dodge those torps, because we're launching them from a click away. So, at 53 knots, good luck. Good luck. This is going to kill it. Yeah, that flooded the whole ship. Okay. And that's how one deals with a heavy cruiser. You just throw 5 torps at it 1 kilometer away. Welcome to World of Warships. This is how I used to play World of Warships. Just dump all the torpedoes at point blank range. Call it a day, go home. Sometimes I do miss that game. World of Warships. Because as bad as some of the mechanics have gotten, there was always something to do. And I used to have a lot of fun playing it. But at some point, I just got tired of all the bullshit that the devs did, like wargaming. And it's, you know, I think, how should I put this? I like the game, I don't like the devs. And I think that is a problem with many studios. Like, the game itself is great, but then the studio or the publisher or both try to milk it for all of its worth, and thereby kill any goodwill or any fun game mechanics that they used to have. So, with that, I stopped playing World of Warships at some point, because it had come as more of a daily chore, if you will, than something I wanted to play. But then again, I've been gone for 4 or 5 years now. Oh, should be a whole lot more new ships to play. Maybe I should look into that. Now, I'm going to end the episode here. I'm not sure exactly what is going to happen with the rest of the Italian war. But, well, somebody's going to lose territory, and it probably won't be me. As for the rest of the Spanish war, I really don't expect them to pose any kind of a threat. Like, we might occasionally see a cruiser or a DD, but my ships have shown that they are more than capable of dealing with any threat that pops up. So I'm not exactly worried about that. As for the new battleships, we're going to start sending those directly into the Mediterranean and make sure that we get those 20-inch guns firing at the Italian fleet. So let's say the Björn. I'm going to park that in Sardinia, Cagliari, and the rest of them, well, it's 6 months out. Lots and lots can change in 6 months. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys soon for more videos.